Hey everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and we've got more updates for Mantic's Kings of War 4th edition that is coming up soon. They dropped an article yesterday covering some advanced rules, but there's a couple of podcasts out there that have had interviews with Alessio and Matt, the two head honchos of Kings of War, and from those nuggets, I think we've been able to piece together just which factions are going to be sticking around in 4th. First things first, let's check in on if you go to the Mantic website, you can go to the Road to 4th edition. And as we scroll down and scroll down some more, first thing to kind of mention is that some of these dates have actually changed, I think. I feel like looking back, looking forward, and this was actually earlier on. It feels like everything's kind of been shuffled back a couple of days, which is interesting. However, not the end of the world. The one we're really excited for is Building Armies, which is going to be coming tomorrow. So do not worry, as soon as that drops, we're going to get concocting potentially. But today's drop is Out of Control, a story by Matt Gilbert, which features Ratkin slaves, basically. I've only had a quick look at it. I've not dived in looking for nuggets yet, but I reckon there's going to be some hidden in there. But when it comes to the advanced games section that they dropped yesterday, it kind of just talked about how there's a different way to play for lots of different people, and there's lots of kind of bits you can add or take away or different ways to play. I really love it. So if we zoom in a little bit, topics covered in the advanced section are timed games, command orders, scenarios and game sizes in complex cases, and clarification. So we'll have a quick look at that. So timed games, the game has been designed that it can continue to be used using a chess clock. So the idea is when you are active, you are, for the majority of time, if not all of the time, the only active person. The only one moving stuff, the only one thinking, and the only one rolling dice, which means it's all on you. So that creates a game where if you're playing competitively, you can use a chess clock and have kind of that divide of time, which is interesting. It's not something I've tried. We do use chess clocks and turn timers in Blood Bowl, but it's not really used all that often. But yeah, because all the decisions and dice rolls are contained to one player within a player turn, it means you can use a classic chess clock to record the time each player has. Command orders. So this is perhaps one of the biggest new features. In this edition, we dabbled with unique command dice. Everyone knows about the command dice. Each army has its own unique command orders. Each of your commanders in play that are on the table and not routed can attempt to issue one of these orders in the movement phase to any friendly units within 12 inches, even if the commander is engaged or has any other status. So the way they kind of talked this through in the interviews, which I'll put in the links below, it's kind of like they were very careful to call it out, to be like, it's not like spells, but mechanically it kind of works like spells that you use on your own units, that your commanders can use. And one thing that's flagged up and I've seen mentioned in the Facebook as being a bit of a concern is champions and warlords are the two kind of different classes of heroes or generals. Champions roll 2d6 to cast these orders, and your warlords cast 3d6 to cast these, which basically I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it basically means that warlords auto get their commands off, which, I mean, you want them to be because there's only one or two warlords in a game. Right, scenarios and game sizes. We know that most players, most of the time, especially when learning to play or play casual and frequent games, will pick the simplest scenario where the armies line up facing across the table and then attempt to knock lumps out of each other for the next 2 hours. We call this the standard game and it's presented in the core rules. In the advanced section, however, we've got all various scenarios, loot, bluff, etc. grouped into categories, and we have added 6 pre-configured terrain maps and also 3 deployment zone setups. So I actually love that. It's a really interesting one. And when it comes to wargaming, everybody loves standardization, even though we all love to choose exactly the way we want to play. So having a default standard in there for people who have got no idea how to play is excellent. In one-page rules, they kind of say use 20 pieces of terrain. And if you're going from 0 to 20, trying to figure out how or what, it creates a bit of a challenge. So even if this is just like here, this is where you can start. This is what you can aim for. I think it's really good. Most of us who've been playing Wargaming for ages, we've got Realm of Battle boards and forests already, so we're just going to be using what we've got. But from an onboarding point of view, which if you remember we talked about on our wish list, I like that. I do like that quite a lot. I think that's going to be really helpful. And for competitive events and stuff, kind of it creates a start point. If you randomize these elements, there's a few hundred possible games to play. Wicked. Right, this is my favorite thing of this entire article. So the other important thing this section covers is game size. There are 3 categories suggested. Ambush games of up to 1,000 points, 1 battalion, On a 3x3 or 4x4 table, no warlords or titans, and all auxiliary units become core. I don't overly know if we know what that means yet. We may have to wait till tomorrow to find out exactly what that means. Standard games of up to 3,000 points, 1 to 2 battalions on a 6x4 table, and legendary games of 3,000 points or more, any number of battalions on an 8x4 or larger, 2 warlords instead of 1 per battalion. Great for a massive weekend game. Battalions are part of the new army building rules, which you'll find out about tomorrow, basically. Complex cases and clarification, so they cover a bunch of stuff in there as well. Look, this is really good because, let's face it, ambush is where we're going to be starting on the channel, because delving in, like, it's okay if you've been playing 3rd edition and you've got multiple 2,500 point armies, you've probably got everything you need. You may have to tweak your rosters, you may have to tweak your list a little bit, but you're going to be able to dive straight in. For those of us that are just starting on this edition of Kings of War, or you know, yeah, kind of refreshing our Kings of War journey, that is, ambush is a really good place to shoot for. Kind of, you've got your Kings of War champion stuff, slightly different games, slightly different rules, but it creates a start of a force. You can add that to build up your ambush force, then you can go into shooting for standard games. I think is going to be a really good pathway into Kings of War, which I am very, very pro. All right, so on to the meat of the video. So, like I said, there's been a couple of podcasts where they've got Matt and Alessio on to talk about the edition. So a lot of this is me putting some stuff together from what they've said, whether they meant what they said, whether I misheard what they said, or what they said may not have been 100% the truth. This is still obviously speculation, and it's the best part of the new edition, right? But basically, through the magical power of Google here, I've listed up all the factions that are currently on the list builder. And they have said that there's going to be 20 factions. Now, they said that that's 20 including the new army, so it's 19 of these factions plus the new army, but that might be wrong. It might be 20 plus that next army. But the way they've talked about the way they're going to be changing factions is, you know, we'll use Ratkin and Ratkin Slaves as a really good example here, because those two forces, well, Ratkin is its own force, and Ratkin Slaves is basically Ratkin mixed with Abyssal Dwarves. So they're like, okay, you can run an Abyssal Dwarf army, you get access to Ratkin units by taking this hero for an Abyssal Dwarf army. Therefore, you don't really need Ratkin Slaves anymore, but you kind of got the way of merging them. They did also say that Orcs are going to be gone. The units are going to stick around, but they're going to form a part of Riftforge Orcs. In fact, I tell you what, we'll do this a slightly different way. We'll chuck the armies underneath, there you go, and we'll put Ratkin Slaves underneath. I'll just put them underneath Ratkin for now, because I think that's probably fine. It's not as down to the bottom, not as together as we'd like it to be. All right, so that's 2 armies gone already. So we've got 29 on the page here, and we need to get it down to 19 or 20. So there are a few armies they already talked about that actually could be kind of combined. I think Rordia is going to be combined with Kingdoms of Men. And I think it's really kind of starting to think about which armies they absolutely positively are going to need to ring fence, because they're really important, or they've got their own lore to the extent that they're not going anywhere. And if you think, we can kind of start with that. Basilians, absolutely. Abyssal Dwarves, absolutely. So let's give them some nice chunky outlines, because they are absolutely staying, because they're so key. Dwarves, elves, staying as well, because they are so very different. In fact, I don't like the way this color goes. Boop, let's do this. All right, sweet. Then free dwarves can go and buddy up with dwarves, so that just makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of carryover in those rosters. It's quite interesting as you're getting into the game and you're looking at these units, you're like, what? Now this one I think is quite interesting. Undead and Noble Undead, looking at the way the rosters go, I think they're going to end up being buddied up as well. I think that just makes sense. Brother Mark probably goes to be part of Kingdoms of Men as well. And then you can start to see armies that are absolutely going to be ring fenced. So Salamanders, Northern Alliance, they're going to be in as well. So we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good armies all locked in. Then let's have a look at the evil armies. Riftforge Orcs, they've gained Orcs, that works. Ratkin, we've put Ratkin Slaves underneath them, that works, even though I think Ratkin Slaves is technically going to be part of Abyssal Dwarves. You've got Twilightkin, Night Stalkers, Varangur, Forces of the Abyss, absolutely going to be locked in there. Goblins is an interesting one. I think goblins should and will still be its own thing, but it is possible it gets buddied up with orcs. So it's definitely one to consider. Over here, you've got Green Lady, which let's, for all intents and purposes, just kind of, again, chuck with Kingdom of Men. I know it's a mix mash of like lots of different units and stuff, but I can see that being its own thing. Now, when it comes to Mantic, Ogres, absolutely their own roster. Trident Realms, absolutely their own roster because they're kind of so important. Halflings, I cannot see them mixing halflings with anybody else either. That is just, it's just too strong. I'm going to put Boldface on Undead because I think that's too important a faction as well. And you kind of got the Noble Undead that kind of goes with it, which I can see. So we're looking for 20 factions here. Abyssal Dwarf, Forces of the Abyss, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 evil, 6 evil, 7 evil, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 armies. And then we'll go 17 for Kingdoms of Men because they have confirmed that Kingdoms of Men are staying, but they held, basically kind of said, yeah, at some point we'll be doing them in plastic and they're going to change to fit in with the Mantic lore. At the moment, it's the Kingdoms of Men roster, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Herd, I can absolutely see Herd being kept the same. I can see them kind of maybe changing the Herd a little bit and combining it with Forces of Nature. I could see that being a thing that can happen. So if we've got Kingdoms of Men, we've got these guys here. Let's put Kingdoms of Men in the secure pile. With that, Ogres can be in the secure pile as well. Halflings, secure. Trident Realms, secure. That's the absolutely secure pile. On the evil side, Empire of Dust, I think, has got too much of its own character. I think that's got to be its own thing as well. Undead kind of stays as its own thing too. Let's drop Goblins down here. So we've got a list of kind of armies and units that we think are locked in. Then you've got Sylvankin and Forces of Nature. Let's do a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So in a world where there's going to be 19 factions, there's something here that doesn't add up. And I don't know if it's going to be Night Stalkers and Twilight Kin become the same force. That seems bold, given that they've both got a Champions box set and they've both got a lot of identity. The thing for me that may change potentially is Empire of Dust. Even though they've got a range, it's possible that Empire of Dust comes away and just kind of sits under the header of Undead there. Undead, Noble Undead, and Empire of Dust. Similar sort of units. I could see them being combined. And I can see potentially Sylvankin. So kind of just like, right, well, obviously, that would make a lot of sense. So we can put Forces of Nature there as the overarching thing. So let's think, if we put Goblins with Orcs as well, which is, I think, quite bold, and you've got the Herd, I think we're getting there, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That could very well be the makeup of the armies for this edition. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this. Obviously, it's possible the Herd goes away and becomes part of the Forces of Nature. So you kind of got like Trees and the Beastmen army. You've got Kingdoms of Men, the different variations, Ogres, Halflings, Trident Realm. I think Trident Realm is going to be its own thing. But you kind of got the makeup of most of stuff. The only thing I could potentially see is Varangur and Northern Alliance, but they're very different. Like Northern Alliance has got so much of its own identity that I don't think that is likely to happen. I think this works out to be the way. I reckon this is what we're going to see with all those other armies becoming variants or detachment variants of the rest of them. Now, that is, of course, assuming that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so there is potentially one more army there that they could pull out and make it different. I did think maybe Empire of Dust. I do think Empire of Dust. I think Empire of Dust, Goblins, the Herd, Like, those are the three ones that I would potentially say one of those is going to be left its own faction. Goblins has got a lot of units and a lot of character, but I can see them being bundled in with orcs in the big world. I guess Emperor of Dust has got, you know, the vibe crossover, but it's got its own kind of units and its own, it's got its own model range, right? And the herd, I think, the herd, I don't know what Mantic are going to be doing with the herd. At some point they'll bring back their own version of it, I guess. So I think yeah, it's either going to be Goblins or Emperor of Dust that they left being their own army. And I think that's pretty much where we're going to end up with the forces here. Based on what Alessio and Matt have said and how the forces are going to come in on themselves. They talked about Ratkin slaves absolutely becoming part of Abyssal Dwarves or Ratkin. They've talked through orcs becoming part of the Riftford orcs. They talked through the various different elements of Kingdoms of Men becoming versions of Kingdoms of Men. Goblins, Empire of Dust, the real question. Noble Undead and Undead are like the same roster, basically. And Forces of Nature, pairing them up with Sylvankin, yeah, makes a lot of sense. The Herd potentially folding into Forces of Nature, I think would at least make the Forces of Nature roster kind of interesting. But you kind of want to get to a place where you're starting with a core thing and then adding bits to it. So, I don't know. But for me, that is where I've come to, based on what they've talked about. That is what I think we're going to see when they release all the factions, plus the brand new shiny faction, which I am still waiting to hear and see, but that's going to be quite an interesting one. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll be back soon with more Wargaming content. Happy gaming.